This video is about a 1955 Standard 10 owned by Ben Carroll of Brisbane. The original British-made black Standard 10 started its life in Sydney and was first sold new on the 28th of January 1955 to a Mrs. Olive Nash of 34 Tamarama Street, Bondi, New South Wales by the Standard Car Company Limited. They were located in Flinders Street, Sydney. The sale price was £909, 11 shillings and 4pence, which is approximately $36,000 in today's currency. Ben's father has a 1927 Standard 1428. However, Ben wanted a Standard of his own and preferred a later model that would be easier to drive on the roads today. Ben checked out a couple of local Standard cars that were for sale, but found that they were in poor condition. Searching on the web, Ben noticed a black 1955 Standard 10 for sale in New South Wales. It looked good, but description was very vague. However, without hesitation, he contacted the seller and made arrangements to go and see it with his father and brother-in-law. They set off in their motorhome with a car trailer in tow. This was a good decision, as after inspecting the vehicle they saw that the body was rust-free and no dents. The upholstery was very tidy. It had 4 new radial tyres. However, the paintwork was dirty, as the car had been sitting in a garage for about 7 years. There was quite a few spare parts in storage. The previous owner had passed away. He had started doing some repairs to get it back on the road, but it was not finished. Ben purchased the car and set about getting it back to Brisbane. Once back, QVVA club member Clint Frater offered to help Ben get it going so that he could use it as a club vehicle. The car was taken to Clint's place, and after initial inspection they worked out what was needed to be done. Starting with the running gear, all the brakes had to be relined and all hydraulic cylinders overhauled, including new brake hoses. New master cylinders for both the brakes and the clutch were sourced and fitted. New telescopic shock absorbers were fitted to the front. The rear ones, being lever type, were replenished with new oil. The radiator had a leak at the top outlet which needed to be resoldered. Ben supplied a new battery and cables, new radiator hoses, fan belt and a few other things. The gearbox and differential were drained and new oil added. A new spin-on oil filter adapter that suits a standard spin-on filter was fitted. Once all these were fixed up, and they tried to get the engine started but found that there was a solid blockage in the fuel line. Once they sorted it out with a few blasts of compressed air and new fuel then added, the engine was started. It ran rough. So a little investigation with a compression gauge revealed that the engine had a very burnt out exhaust valve. Clint removed the cylinder head, dismantled it and took it to a local cylinder head machining company to have the valve seats machined and the head planed. New valves were installed. There was no sign of any wear or marks on the cylinder bores. So after replacing the cylinder head, the engine was started and it ran very smooth. Ben has since had a few things fitted like seatbelts so he can take his family for rides. New mirrors, seats repaired, new screen rubbers front and rear, new light bulbs all round, new hubcaps and a few other safety things done. Ben gave the car a very good wash which made the car respectable. Most of the chrome had growth on it from sitting in the shed, but this came off with good chrome polish and a bit of blow grease. The car is now registered and being used for club events. There are not many of these Standard 10s around these days, which is surprising as 172,000 were built. It is even better that this little black Standard 10 has survived and it's going to be kept in the original condition as found. A little bit of history about the Standard 10 post-war. Standard started manufacturing a new design 8 horsepower car in 1953, which was a rear-wheel drive, front-engine saloon and a boot that was accessed through the back of the back seat. Standard made 8 horsepower and 10 horsepower cars prior to the war but needed a new design to compete in the market. In 1954, the Standard Car Company developed the new design Standard 10, which was to sell in direct competition with the Austin A30 and 35s, the Morris Minors and the Ford 10s. The first Standard 10 was built in England and exported mainly to Australia and New Zealand. The Standard 10 bodies were made by Fisher and Ludlow in Birmingham. As said earlier, 172,000 Standard 10s were manufactured before they changed the design to the new Triumph Herald design. The majority of the standards built in England before manufacturing plants were set up in Australia, France, India and South Africa. Overseas assembly plants were opened in Canada, Ireland and New Zealand. Standards were manufactured in Australia by the Standard Motor Company before the Australian Motor Industries. The new Standard 10 has a 4-cylinder overhead valve 998cc engine, 4-speed transmission, internal hydraulic drum brakes, hydraulic clutch, 4 doors with wind-up windows, as most cars had sliding windows, and a good-sized boot opening from the outside. The car has a top speed of 69 miles an hour or 110 kph. Acceleration from 0 to 60 mile an hour was 40 seconds, a bit slow in today's language. Fuel consumption of 34 miles per gallon. In 1958, the company negotiated an agreement with Daimler-Benz to assemble and distribute Mercedes-Benz vehicles in Australia. They purchased the Toyota franchise for Australia in the early 1960s and later started assembling Toyota Corollas along with Nash Ramblers and Standard Vanguards. Toyota brought into the AMI company in the early 60s as well. Later on, it purchased a controlling interest in the whole company, and as they say, the rest is history. And so is the Toyota car manufacturing plant, which closed its doors in production of Toyota cars in Australia in 2017. A total shame. Long live this and other 1955 Standard 10s.